Well, when we talk about stress, we need to understand that two primary things are happening simultaneously. The first one, most obvious and probably most important, is the alteration of breathing patterns. So the breathing patterns go from the way we're designed to breathe, which is from the diaphragm or belly region, up to the chest and shoulder region. And once that happens, the mechanics of that lead to a deterioration in the body's ability, in particular the brain's ability, to receive enough oxygen. So the second part of this problem relates to how the brain produces stress hormones as a part of the stress reflex. And I really like the term reflex as opposed to response, because the idea of a reflex is that it's going to happen whether you like it or not, which is what happens with stress. Whereas a response is something that implies that we have some sort of choice in the matter. And when we talk about the community of addiction and recovery, we're talking about a group of people that have been through tremendous volumes of trauma and stress and anxiety for long periods of time in most cases. This sets up a reflexive relationship to stress and anxiety, such that very small stressors in actuality manifest as very large magnitude responses or reflexes to it. But one point that has to be made is that stress, if it's high enough, and on a scale of 1 to 10, 8 is the number. When we reach an 8 in our level of stress, our brain actually shifts its mode from what we call the higher brain to the lower brain. And that is what then determines what we think and how we think, what we feel and how we feel. And then the next step, the inevitable next step, is behavior. So the train looks like thinking alteration to emotions to behavior. And that's dependent upon whether we're in our high brain or our low brain. For example, if we're in our low brain, a small stressor can turn into a really dramatic event, physically and emotionally. Whereas in the reversed situation, where stress is well managed in a person's brain and body, that same event is just a blip on the screen and does not change their brain state. When we talk about stress in the context of sobriety and or addiction, what we're really looking at is we need to understand that trauma is in the background someplace in the history. And that may go as far back as in utero, meaning that when we're in our mother's womb. Many people are traumatized at that level, and this prevents them many times from actually accessing those memories, which has the effect of sustaining and maintaining a higher stress and anxiety level. For the rest of us that have had a trauma, that trauma produces the fight or flight reflex. And we all know that fight or flight, sometimes referred to as the fight, fight, or freeze reflex, where we freeze in the stressful moment. That manifests changes in the production of cortisol, adrenaline, norepinephrine on the hormone level. It manifests changes in how fast we breathe and the style or type of breathing. And those lead to the things earlier discussed about thinking, emotions, and behaviors.